This small and cute Fuji lens is full of surprises. It's a macro lens, but it doesn't behave like one. It's too small to be able to fit linear motor, but somehow Fuji did it. It should be boring if you look at specs on paper, but in reality it's one of the most fun and enjoyable lenses I have used for a long time. That's a Fujifilm 30mm 2.8 LM Macro, and here is my review about it. Lens manufacturers often prioritize specific technical aspects of their lenses. For instance, Sigma lenses are renowned for their exceptional sharpness and relatively low cost, but you have to admit they tend to be massive and heavy. Sony, in contrast, puts a bigger emphasis on making their lenses lightweight, while still maintaining top-notch quality. But these lenses tend to be a little pricier, and manufacturers like Viltrox focus more on creating value options, the best bang for your buck. Fuji for me always stood apart by prioritizing something most manufacturers don't: the fun factor. Fuji lenses, regardless of how sharp or soft, fast or slow they may be, are always enjoyable and pleasant to use. This fun factor can't be explained by specifications or measured by shooting brick walls. It must be experienced, and this lens is full of it. Firstly, look how small and cute it is. It weighs less than 200 grams. It's weightless on our Fuji X-H2S. This lens will pair very well with smaller Fuji bodies like X-T30 or XE series, creating a capable but very easy to carry camera package. Heavy glass is great and all, but if it makes your camera literally too much burden to carry, you will leave it at home. Remember, fun size is small size. However, with weight like this, you shouldn't expect a fully metal body. And yes, this lens has some plastic elements, but it doesn't feel cheap and plasticky. Everything you come in contact with, every important part, is metal. It even has a weather sealing. The lens has an aperture ring with nice clicks but lacks any other switches. It doesn't have optical stabilization, so no OIS switch. It also doesn't have a focus limiter like other macro lenses from Fuji. Thanks to LM motors, you don't really miss it that much. Autofocus fast and reliable and makes this lens a joy to use. However, there are some limitations imposed by camera capabilities and such a wide range of available focusing distances. In general, autofocus is blazing fast in photo mode and reliable when shooting video. It plays well with latest camera bodies, animals in vehicles tracking, all of that. But for example, when you try to make a transition from far object to very close or vice versa, sometimes the camera gets stuck in bokeh world and refuses to leave it. And on video, long and fast focus pulls can look a little jittery. But on shorter focus transitions in tracking shots or with slower focus speeds, autofocus will look smooth on video. So, autofocus has its quirks, but after you learn them, the lens will allow you to get a 100% hit rate in any scenario with any subject. Optically, this lens is punching above its weight. There are 11 elements, including 3 aspherical and AD glass elements. Lens produce sharp and very pleasing images with nice colors, good contrast. And 9-bladed aperture create smooth bokeh. F2.8 doesn't allow you to go crazy with, but still provide good subject isolation. There are some vignetting and distortion, but nothing serious, they get fixed on the fly. Very solid performance. But don't get me wrong, there are no miracles, there is no pixie dust, which can substitute a lot of glass. So recent Fujifilm 33mm 1.4 LM lens is much sharper, even wide open. But if you don't crave for wide aperture and maximum sharpness, this lens can do for you so much more because of lightweight, small size and close focus capabilities. For macro work, this lens has both good and bad. This is a real macro lens which can do one-to-one reproduction, but it has a few caveats. Fujifilm 30mm macro have a unique feature: it doesn't go darker when doing one-to-one macro work. Usually at this magnification ratio, effective aperture goes down 2 stops. Some better lenses lose around 1 stop of light. So, best case scenario, at 2.8 macro lens will actually gather light as if it were at f4. It happens because to get one-to-one reproduction, you have to get your subject closer to lens, which narrows down lens field of view and lowers effective aperture. This lens, however, is different. Doing 1:1 reproduction at 10 cm, the closest focus distance of this lens, it loses only 1/3 stop of light. That is very rare. I can't really remember any macro lenses who are behaving like that. Write in comments if you know one. The closest focus distance for this lens, as I said, is 10 cm. This number is actually calculated from the sensor. From the front element of this lens, it's just 1 cm. Effectively, you can't get 1:1 macro with the lens hood attached. The subject has to be inside the lens hood. And at 4 cm from the lens, reproduction ratio will be 1:2. That's a huge limiting factor for many types of macro work. Nothing is too close for this lens, but this lens can be too close for some subjects and some situations. For that reason, it can be a tricky task to get enough light on your subject. Lens and camera will drop shadow on your subject in many situations. Lighting is always a challenge for macro, and for this lens it's even harder. Sharpness-wise, this lens is not the best fit for macro work either. You want your macro lenses to be evenly sharp all over the frame, and these 30mm lenses tend to be much softer at corners than at center. You want them to perform best at closed apertures, and these lenses start to lose sharpness after 5.6. Good enough for landscape shots, not so good for serious macro. You can play with its close focus capabilities, they're pretty impressive, but don't expect to get a workhorse for macro work. However, like a good macro lens, Fujifilm 30mm doesn't have focus breathing. Useful feature when stacking macro photos to get more depth of field. Works well with focus bracketing feature that Fuji has. Tell me in comments if you would like to see a video about it. Fuji knows this lens shortcomings and basically wants us to treat it as a versatile general purpose lens which can focus at any distance. Okay, but then it has to face the competition from other general purpose lenses, and Fujifilm has already 4 other options in a 30-35mm range. There are 2 more budget-friendly options: XF 35mm F2 WR and its optical copy in plastic housing XC 35mm F2. They both are lighter and smaller, but can focus so close and don't have linear focusing motors. They have wider aperture f2, but somehow images don't have the same object separation effect like this 30mm f2.8 lens has. I always found photos taken with 35mm f2 too flat, dull and normal looking for my taste. You really have to work hard with lighting and your subjects to make shots interesting. But hey, they are $200 and $400 cheaper than this 30mm. There is an amazing old 35mm 1.4. Retail price is the same, $600, but it's been with us for 11 years. You can easily find it cheaper. It is also smaller and lighter than 30mm macro. This is a legendary lens that made me fall in love with Fuji. You miss macro and modern autofocus speeds, but if you don't need it, it's still a remarkable offering with a very distinct look. And if you want fast and reliable autofocus, you can go just $200 higher and get a new 33mm 1.4 LM. It's a blazing fast and razor sharp even at 1.4, unlike anything Fujifilm produced before. It's chunkier and heavier, but still very manageable, just 360 grams. However, you lose 20 cm of focus range in front of the lens and a bit of character, but you get so much more in terms of picture quality. And if you want a lens for street photography, you can get Pancake 27 2.8 from Fuji or from TT Artisan. A little wider, even lighter, smaller and with the same aperture. There are plenty of options, but for me, none of these lenses can compete with Fujifilm 30mm 2.8 in fun factor. It's a fixed focal length, but you can create such a wide range of very different looking images. Try it, there is a high chance that you would love it too.